Hello, students. Now we're gonna start our governance section, and in the second part, we'll discuss institutions, flagship schemes, and policies. Right? Right. Okay. So coming to the institutions, the first institution we're gonna discuss is National Service Scheme. Now you'll say, "Sir, this is a scheme. This is not an institution, but it is a very old scheme. It has become in a very institutionalized format. I hope in your college days or in your school days, you must have seen NSS. In fact, in my college, NSS was used to be a hobby. One of the hobbies were used to be NSS or NCC you used to take. Okay, so talking about the institutional structure, so it is under the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports. Okay, so it was launched in 1969. So it will be 51 years. It completed its 50 years in the 2019. So launched in Gandhi's centenary years, when the 100 years have passed by to the Gandhi's birthday. So launched in that with the motto of "Not me but you." So the motto of selfless service, the NSS was launched. It was recommended at that time by the Dr. Radhakrishnan. Committee was formed by the UGC, University Grant Commission, which has talked about the introduction of the national service in the academic institutions on a voluntary basis. So remember, it's on the voluntary basis, NSS, right? So currently in this COVID crisis, because now Corona has become one of the frame of reference of many of the current affairs. Many of the, for example, in the international affair, will in the indexes, sorry, we have discussed that monthly report given by the OPEC, and we have talked about the analysis of the recent COVID impact on the oil. We've not talked about it, but we have mentioned that. So the COVID-19 this year, this particular attempt in the mains, and maybe coming 2 to 3 years, it will become a frame of reference of everything. Coming back to the point, so the prime minister and the prime minister is talking about taking the volunteers from the NCC, NSS, paramedical staff who are working for the COVID-19 in the healthcare sector or in the providing the essential services, right? Okay, so the objective of the NSS, very subjective it is. What will be the objective? Very logically we can see. So community participation, democratic attitude, help in the natural disaster, integration, social harmony, right? Understand the problems of the country and all this. Okay, so this is NSS. Remember, what is important we need to remember is the year, and secondly, it's very easy to remember the year. That is why, and most importantly, in which ministry it lies in, right? Next is National Commission for the Protection of the Child Right. So it is a statutory body. It's an statutory body formed in 2007 under the Commission for the Protection of the Child Rights Act. It works under that administrative control of the Women and Child Development, MOWCD, that is Ministry of Women and Child Development. Okay, so this particular institution, from the name itself, Commission for the Protection of the Child, talks about what it will do. It will ensure that all the laws, all the constitution, all the conventions that we have signed, the action on the ground is done in the spirit of those as well. Okay, and the convention, the child rights mentioned in the convention that we have signed, right? We have signed the Convention of the Protection of the Child Rights. So all our laws, regulations, rules are with respect to that, right? So this is National Commission for the Protection of Women. Next, remember, it's a statutory body. Next is National Safety Council. So it is a apex non-profit making company which ensures the SHE, that is Safety, Health and Environment, on the national level. It works under the overall guidance of the Ministry of Labor. So Ministry of Labor, because these all the institutions I told you, these are all India Yearbook stuff, right? So these are all taken from the India Yearbook. All are given in the India Yearbook. We are just presenting in a very as a format where you can where the probability of returnability is increased, right? It's not an statutory body. It's registered under the Societies Act and the Bombay Trust Act. Okay, so National Safety Act. So it ensures that the movement of the things across the line is provides proper safety, health and environment, and to overall mitigating the loss of the human life, livelihood, suffering, and economic loss. Right? So that is National Safety Council. Next is, I know it's relatively not interesting because these are the India book stuff, right? But we have to cover it for the sake of comprehensiveness, and we should not exclude the facts which may be asked in the exam. Next is, this is important, National Institute of Skills. So this particular skills is being developed in the foundation has been laid in Mumbai. That is the current affair. But however, two other institutions at Ahmedabad and the Kanpur are also provided. Also, the cabinet has given note to provide these IIS at these places as well. So what will be IIS? That is Indian Institute of Skills. So it will be a state of art system. That means just like IITs, you imagine, right? So a state of art system where all the training is of the institutions will be there, right? It will be working on the PPP basis and not for profit basis, which will work to improve the skilling base of India. We'll see how it works also. So currently Tata Education Development Trust was selected as the private partner for setting up the first ISS in the Mumbai. The other one in the cities you need to remember. So Ahmedabad and the Kanpur. So in the map, how you can remember these things? You can make a very small map in your notes. So Ahmedabad, Mumbai and Kanpur, like that. So how it will be there? So the government will provide the private sector the land. Okay, so the government will provide the land, and the private sector will promise that we will train around 5,000 students per year for 5 years. We will train them, we will skill them, and making sure that at least 70% of the students are getting placed. These figures can vary depending upon place to place, right? But the overall idea is the same. Next is CII. So CII is a non-governmental, non-for-profit, industry-led, industry-managed organization founded in pre-independence time. Okay, so many of the organization we can run study parallelly. I have not covered that, but I'll cover that. CII, FICCI, ASSOCHAM, these are the associations we should read parallelly. Okay, so it's the goal is to develop industry and ensure that the government and society as a whole understand both the need of the industry and the contribution to national well-being. So you can say that it contributes some people say it acts as a lobby, some people say that it acts as an interest group, some people say that it acts as a pressure group, some people say that they give a very specific technical advice to the government on various things. For example, right, with respect to economy, you can say in the context of COVID-19, they have called for 2 lakh crore stimulus. They have set up a task force for the corona, on which basis they have given this particular thing, right? So they give government some technical advice. It is up to the government whether they take their advice or not. Many of the previous prime ministers, like it was given example of Prime Minister Narasimha Rao, he used to take up many of the people from the CII or FICCI to his foreign trips, right? So this is CII. Next is Breastfeeding Promotion Network of India, BPNI. So it is a national network of the organization and the individual dedicated to promote what? The breastfeeding practices, right? By breastfeeding, helping both child and the mother and the child health, right? Okay, so many of the initiatives that have been taken place, we have considered that Ma initiative has taken fate for the breastfeed, improving the breastfeed, or making attitudinal change, or making them vigilant about the significance of the breastfeeding. For example, for the child, we know many of the things that it gives them particular antibodies, right? The yellow milk that the mother gives to the child, it contains some antibodies which protect the child against many of the disease, right? Sudden deaths, infections, and all this. For the mother itself, many of the good benefits are lessening the chance of the breast risk, ovarian cancer, prevents type 2 diabetes, reduces stress, and all this. Okay, so this is Breastfeeding Promotion Network of India that you need to remember, right? Next is Next is this one, Human Rights Law Network. So it is an NGO for collective Indian lawyer and social activists who provide legal support to the vulnerable and disadvantaged section of the society in the Delhi. So because the question can come from the name itself, you can see the name itself is not very specific. So the question can come that what it is, right? So the question can be around these lines only. Just like we have covered on the international affairs, Amnesty International, Transparency International, right? Nutritional International we have covered. Similarly, it will be Human Rights Law Network, right? It's an Indian based institute, civil society institute. That's it. That's what you need to remember. Next is Archaeological Survey of India. So it is under the Ministry of Culture function. It regulates it overall under ASI. It takes care of many of the legislations. For example, ancient monument and archaeological sites of remains. So this particular act. Then Antiques and the Art Treasurer Act 1972. So these are the acts which fall under the domain or the regulation of these particular act or the implementation of these acts fall under the ambit of the ASI, right? It is under Ministry of Culture. Founded in 1861 by Alexander Cunningham. He was the first Director General of the ASI, Archaeological Survey of India. So one thing you need to remember here is that particular this act, that act I told you, that is Ancient Monument and the Archaeological Sites and Remains Act. If a site becomes, if the site of the national importance, when a particular site becomes the site of the national importance, then it is maintained and taken up by ASI, right? So it should be in existence for more than 100 years. This is a prime criteria that you need to remember. If it is in the existence for more than 100 years, then only it becomes a site for the natural importance, and this is where ASI comes in, right? So remember, it is under the Ministry of Culture domain. Next is the flagship schemes. So the flagship scheme, first we're going to see Pradhan Mantri Gramin Saksharta Abhiyan, Gramin Digital Saksharta Abhiyan. That is the bridging the digital divide, or providing the digital literacy in the rural areas. Okay, so the rural areas it will be focused on. So it is not an old scheme. It's been it's not a new scheme. It's an old scheme, right? Implemented by Common Service Center E-Governance Service India Limited. We have discussed this particular body, right, in the last August month. Incorporated under the Companies Act, under the which ministry it will be there? MeitY ministry it is being implemented, right? So they have given a target of training 6 crore people, right? 6 crore people in the rural areas they have given the target, that is by thereby reaching the 40% of the rural household by covering at least one member from the each household. Okay, so this was the idea that we'll try to cover that, and it was launched in around the time of the demonetization, right? So the idea was to give a particular training course of 20 hours in the official languages of the India from the age of 40 to 60. Now in as this the scheme came to an end, it was analyzed that around 42.66% of the target has been met, and rest of the targets have not been met. How government has presented? Government has said that we have provided training to 2.56 crore people, right? They have set up a huge target. 6 crore itself a huge target, but they have said that we are able to train around 2.56 crore people. That is 42 or 43% of the estimated target. So that's what you need to remember for now. Next is Pradhan Mantri Khanij Kshetra Kalyan Yojana, PMKKY. Khanij means mineral, Kshetra means region, Kalyan means welfare, right? So Pradhan Mantri Khanij Kshetra Kalyan Yojana. So this particular scheme is for the welfare of the areas where mining, for example, in a particular area mining is there, so there will be some ecological or social damage to the particular vicinities. So this particular scheme for the welfare of the people affected by that. Okay, so which are directly or indirectly affected by the mining related operations. It is implemented by the DMF. We'll discuss what is DMF. So district mineral foundations of the respective district using the funds which will be coming in the DMF fund. So there will be a fund that will be created, a DMF fund, district mineral foundation fund. From where the money will come? Money will come from the royalties by the mining companies. So the mining companies, the contributory amount will be equivalent to the royalty, right, by the companies itself. The overall objective, what is the objective? That is the welfare of the people affected by the mining communities, right? So minimizing the adverse impact and ensuring the long-term sustainable livelihood of the people. So this was this particular scheme. Now this DMF scheme is related to that. It is in fact implementing the PMKKY for the welfare of the people affected by the mining under the Mines and Mineral Development and Regulation Act, MMDR Act. Right? This is a statutory body, you can say statute, within a statute it has been established. So MMDR Act, Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Act of 2015 provides setting up of DMF as a non-profit trust in every mining district, right? It says that the miner has to pay a part of the royalty for the well-being of the people which are affected by the mining, right? Next is with respect to this COVID-19 crisis, it has been decided that states can tap up to 30% of the DMF fund, because a lot of DMF fund and it has not been utilized itself. Okay, so the center has given the go ahead to the state that they can utilize the 30% of the DMF fund for the COVID crisis, right? Next is Pradhan Mantri Kisan Man Dhan Yojana. Now this is one of the schemes. Along these lines, the other schemes are also launched. We will see Laghu Vyapari Man Dhan Yojana, right? So what this scheme is, basically it's a contributory old pension pension scheme when you are going into the old age, right? When you become old, when you don't have a lot of livelihood options, you will have at least some bit of minimum amount of money coming to you, right? And that is what government is planning under its social security architecture. Right, overall social security architecture government is planning on that front. So it's an old age pension scheme for all land holding small and marginal farmer in the country, right? It will be implemented by Ministry of Agriculture and Welfare, and the pension fund manager will be Life Insurance Corporation of India, right? So it will be a voluntary and contributory pension scheme. That means voluntary, that is you are not mandated to participate in that. Sorry. So contributory means government will also contribute. The entry of this particular scheme is 18 to 40. That means when you become from 18 years of age to the 40 years of age, you can enter. For example, a farmer turns 41, he cannot get into this particular scheme, right? Providing a minimum pension of 3,000 rupees per month on attaining the age of 60 years. Eligibility क्या है? What is the eligibility? That 18 to 40 years is the eligibility who can apply for the scheme, right? Those farmer who are already getting the benefit under the other scheme, like National Pension Scheme, Pradhan Mantri Shram Yogi Mahadan. I told you the similar schemes are launched on the platform for the farmer, for the unorganized labor. We'll see for the small retailers, this same scheme is launched. So the farmers who are getting the benefit under the other schemes will not get they will not be eligible for this particular scheme, right? So the same thing is there. The minimum pension of 3,000 rupees, voluntary and contributory. The government to share 50% of the premium amount. Okay, so LIC will be the pension payout, something like that, right? Okay, and the farmers will have to access this particular scheme by going to the common service center. We have discussed common service center, right? We have discussed the recent Pradhan Mantri Grameen Digital Saksharta Abhiyan, which is implemented by the Common Service Center Private Limited. Next is very small scheme, that is senior citizen saving scheme. So this particular interest rate keeps on changing, right? Decided by the government. But the one thing I just wanted to highlight with respect to scheme from the scheme itself very clear, senior citizen saving scheme. So they will be giving some depositional benefit. For example, if the citizen deposit 15 lakh, they will give him or her a particular fixed interest rate, right? But the 2 points to be highlighted. First point is the interest is taxable, right? So if you get the interest money, it will be included in your income tax. Secondly, that this scheme is under the Ministry of Finance, right? This is what you need to remember: Department of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance. It is not under the Ministry of Social Justice. Okay, not under the Ministry of Social Justice. Now we are doing all the schemes under the umbrella of government scheme in the compilation series. So we will cover that there, but just for the sake of this particular sessions, I'm letting you know that this is what you need to remember. Next is Pradhan Mantri PM Kisan Sampada Yojana. Sampada means Sampada means resources, right? So it's a scheme. So Sampada has a full form first of all. So scheme for agro marine processing and development of the agro processing clusters, right? Development of Sampada, that is development of agro processing cluster. They have to make it an acronym, right? So Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana, a scheme for agro marine processing and development of the agro processing center. So it's an umbrella scheme. Just like we have umbrella scheme for, I've discussed so many umbrella schemes, right? The government is putting many of the schemes under the one umbrella scheme. Similarly, all the schemes with respect to the food processing industry are put under this particular Sampada Yojana. So Sampada Yojana is under Ministry of Food Processing and Industry. It's a central sector scheme. That means 100% of the funding will be given by the center government. Objective obviously supplement agriculture, doubling the agriculture income by 2022. And those are the ideas, right? So the comprehensive package will result in the creation of modern infrastructure with efficient supply chain and all this. Many of the schemes which were implemented earlier, like Mega Food Pass scheme, right? Creation of backward forward linkage, creation of these are separate schemes. Now they have provided all the scheme under this overarching agenda of the Sampada, right? Over idea is to, these are the ideas for the means you can write: reducing the food wastage, encouraging entrepreneurs and all this. Okay, on the same ministry, that is Ministry of Food Processing Industry, Operation Greens, it was announced in the budget 2017-18. It was announced in the budget to address the price volatility of the, I'm not sure with the budget year, but it was announced in one of the budget previous years. Though not important for our exam purpose, this scheme becomes important for us. So announced in the budget. Why? To address the price volatility, or especially of the TOP, that is tomato, that is potato and onion. So the price volatility of the TOP, it is being checked here, right? So the benefits like producers and the consumer on the line of the Operation Flood. So Operation Flood, which came for the milk, similarly Operation Green come for the TOP. It will promote the FOP, that is Farmer Producer Organization, and the professional management. We'll discuss FOP in detail in the economic section, right? FOP is important. Next is this Operation Green. So it's a central sector scheme. So the same objective: availability of the TOP. TOP means tomato, onion and potato crops throughout the year, round the year, without price volatility. The nodal agency will be NAFED, that is National Agricultural Cooperative Marketing Federation of India. NAFED will be the implementing agency, will be seeing through the implementation of this particular scheme, right? Next is this interesting scheme, RoDTEP. So we have already seen that WTO has said that countries like India cannot have the export subsidy. So we used to have export subsidy in form of these schemes, merchandise exports from India scheme. So the government said, okay, we won't do this, but they have changed it to the another form. They've changed the form of the subsidy, and they have said, okay, we have replaced this MIES, that is merchandise exports from India scheme, and we are coming up with different scheme, right? the new scheme for the remission of the duties or the taxes of the export product. So what this scheme says, that the scheme aims at the offsetting the amount which exporter has to pay as the duty on the export. Earlier their duties were waived off. Now they are saying you will be paying the duty, but you will get the money in back, right? The same thing will be done in the different form, right? So they have said that the revenue foregone with respect to that is, first we'll see this. So I've discussed that export subsidy in detail, that is why I've kept it in a very short format. So we've discussed that, right? So export subsidy are, so you have to export this particular item and you are giving subsidy to it, so it will be cheap for you, but it goes into the international jurisdiction. For example, something getting export subsidy from outside comes in India, so Indian product is at disadvantage, right? So the government, the WTO ruling, current recent ruling has said that the most of the, it has prohibited most of the export subsidy directly linked to the volume of the exports for all the countries except the least developing countries and including India. So India has to replace its own MEDS, merchandise exports from India scheme. Okay. So the government has come up with this rebate of state and the central tax and levies scheme. Getting my point? Right. So it is for the exports. Similarly, different scheme, this budget 2020, the new scheme has been announced, the Nirvik scheme. So Nirvik scheme is for the new enhanced export credit insurance scheme. Currently the credit insurance given is 60%, it has been increased to the 90%, and that is the sole point, right? You need to remember the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. The idea is to make loans cheaper for the access of the exporter and to simplify the lending process. The whole idea is to increase the exports of India, right? Increase the export competitiveness of India, encouraging people to become entrepreneurs and participate in the export process, right? So at the moment, this export credit guarantee corporation provide a cover of 60% of the losses to the bank. So if you are not able to do that, so this particular organization will be able to help you to repay the money to the bank, right? Credit guarantee, but now this has been increased to the 90 days coverage, right, to help the exporters so that they can also get the further amount to improve for to keep up their manufacturing process, right? Next is MNST scheme. So MNST scheme is part of the coming 150th anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. So they have talked about the release of the prisoners, women convicts. Who will be released from the prison? Many of the prisoners will be left out, so who will be given the amnesty? Women convicts of 55 years plus and the male convicts of 60-year plus who have served their half of the sentence, who have served the half of their sentence, they will be given, okay, you can go from the prison. So it is a part of the gesture from the state to its people. Okay. So no pardon for the people who are involved in the heinous crimes such as dowry, death, rape, human trafficking, convicted under the POTA, like this, right? Money laundering, Prevention of Corruption Act. There will be no pardon or no amnesty for them. Right. Next is Swarojgar Pension Scheme. So not a very important scheme, but Prime Minister has launched in the September month this particular scheme. Not much details are there for this, right? So for example, and along with that, schemes that we have discussed, Pradhan Mantri Kisan Mandhan Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Laghu Vyapari Yojana. So we have discussed this. We'll discuss that in the coming slide only. Swarojgar Pension Scheme is same, right? For the self-employed person under this beneficiary from 18 to 40, the same logic that is being for the Kisan Mandhan Yojana. If you are from 18 to 40, if you are a self-employed person, you will get more than you get 3,000, minimum 3,000 per year after completion of 60 years of the age. Now talking about the next scheme, Pradhan Mantri Laghu Vyapari Mandhan Yojana. So under this, the small shopkeeper, retail trader and self-employed person. Now how will we decide that how it will be done? So those who file the GST returns less than 1.5 crore, they are eligible for the enrollment in this particular scheme, right? So this is Pradhan Mantri Laghu Vyapari Mandhan Yojana. It is dependent upon the self declaration, as there are no documents required except the bank account and the Aadhaar card. And as I told you, the central government whatever you'll contribute, the same central government will contribute. It will become a corpus, and according to which your pension will be decided, how much money you will get from the after you cross the age of 60, right? Next is two schemes we'll see. That is Prasad, this old scheme, not new scheme, first of all. So Prasad scheme and Swadesh Darshan scheme. So Prasad scheme is, full form is this: pilgrimage, rejuvenation and spiritual heritage augmentation drive. So you can see it is related a lot to the first of all, tourism is always there. It is related to the pilgrimage. So many of the sites you will see, majority of the sites, they all will be related to the religious tourism, right? It is 100% centrally funded. So they have selected the 13 cities, and you need to remember these 13 cities. So they have selected these 13 cities which will be given the status under the Prasad, and there the corresponding infrastructure will be developed, right? You need to remember the cities like Kamakhya, especially the cities which are not too much in news, and why they are important. Velankanni, Kanchipuram is relevant. Amravati, everybody knows. Puri knows. Gaya, Varanasi, Mathura, Ajmer, Kedarnath, Amritsar and Dwarka. Few of the, for example, Velankanni and Kamakhya, you need to remember. Kamakhya, we have seen Ambuchi Mela, remember, in the art and culture section. Dwarka, you need to remember the cultural. If you want to read about art and culture, you can read about the cultural significance of these cities, but it will be too much, right? It's an old scheme, that is why I won't prefer you also. On the similar line, and obvious, that is why it is confusing, Swadesh Darshan scheme. It is by the Ministry of Tourism. It will be in the form of the circuits. So they will develop a circuit. What does this mean? We'll see. For the development of the thematic circuits in the country in a planned and the prioritized manner. So what they want to do, they want to develop a different circuit. For example, this is a coastal circuit. Not only pilgrimage, not only religious tourism, but also different kinds of tourism. For example, this is coastal tourism. This is desert tourism. Right? This is spiritual tourism. The Krishna tourism, the Ramayana tourism, the Himalaya tourism. This is a Himalaya circuit. Right? Coastal circuit. There will be one tribal circuit. This is, you can see, tribal circuit. Right? So those who are interested to see the tribal circuit will be given infrastructure along the way. If you come to the one place, you can visit the other places in the same breath. Right? So they want to develop in a circuit wise so as to cover all the areas. It will also help in the infrastructure creation along those circuits. Right? The connectivity, the continuity among the places, right? To provide a wholesome experience to the tourist. Okay, so that's how we are done with the scheme. I know this is a very hectic and very factual session, but that's what we have to deal with, isn't it? When you read the current affair of many institutes, it is the same, right? So we cannot do, but the whole point we are trying to do is provide you a very pictorial approach. Right, so policy, it's not a policy of the government. Just I want to discuss with the Nyaya scheme. One of the students have asked me, sir, what was the Nyaya scheme? So Nyaya scheme proposed by the Congress government during its election manifesto was basically similar to the minimum income scheme, right? Minimum income program, or you can call it universal basic income, UBI. The concept given by the one of the chapters for the economic survey. The idea is to give a basic minimum amount to each and every person. For example, they have decided that they will give 72,000 per annum to the poor. So giving this particular amount to the poor will help, is said to be the greatest help to removal of the poverty, right? In many of the different schemes, it has been launched in a very different format, but not in a very universal format. 2 to 3 years back, it was too much in news. Again, with respect to Corona and COVID crisis, this will be news, because many of the economists have said that the basic universal basic income is the need of the hour. We have to provide the people the universal basic income for their social security, right? And this NAY is again not important for us, I'm telling you, right? So NAY full form was Nunatam Yojana, Nunatam Aay Yojana. But for us, the idea of UBI, and it is relevant for our, again, it becomes relevant for our essay and our mains exam. It has not yet been asked, and that is why it becomes a very, very hot topic. So if you want to read about it, go to the economic survey and read about it. It's really important. Okay, so this is how our session ends. I know it's a really a very technical and very boring session. I got bored as will be teaching, but still, right? There are few things we have to go through so that we get the confidence in to tackle the tough things, right? And we have to do that. And institutions was tough. Initiatives and programs are important, and that's what we have to do. We have to keep surviving. We have to keep, because governance, as we go along, we'll see governance overall, the structure will reduce. Why? Because I've covered many of the areas in the previous sections. So you'll see as we go on, we will see the amount of the governance lecture going down, and amount of science, amount of ecology, amount of economy sections going up. And that's a deliberate strategy to give you a lot of governance content at first, and then give you some technical details. With that, we come to an end of our session. I'll see you in the next class, when we'll talk about the we're continuing our journey, obviously, as I told you, in the tribal section, in that many of the sessions are here and there, right? And this is a bit problem from our side, but we'll try to manage that, right? So we'll see you in the next section. I hope you are doing really well. Any problem, comment us. We'll quickly come back to you. Okay, see you in the next class. Thank you.